Hi, I'm Dr. Annadale, and I'd like to offer today 5 tips for moving your class online, if that's a thing that you have to do, and it looks like many of us are going to have to do that in the coming week. So here are some ideas that I have gotten from my own experience, from conversations with colleagues, and also from some reading. I will put links in the description below to some articles that I've read that I've found helpful for my own thinking. So my first tip is to tell students explicitly that they should prioritize their own safety and self-care. A lot of students are going home unexpectedly, some of them into a very high-stress environment. They're dealing with things that they did not anticipate even as long as a week ago. I think it's important to let students know that though they should keep up with the coursework as much as possible, nothing in this coursework is inflexible and nothing in it is a higher priority than they're staying healthy and safe and practicing a kind of physical and emotional self-care. So I've told my students that right up front, and I would suggest that's a good way to begin this transition to online. My second point, keep in mind the limits of student technology at home. None of our students signed up to take an online course, and so none of them necessarily has fast internet at home, and it's wrong for us to count on that or to rely on their access to that in presenting our course material to them for these weeks. Also, students are going to be in a state of higher stress and anxiety. I think they're going to be capable of doing less than they would have been if they were in the more comfortable, more predictable environment of their campus life. So my advice on this regard is to just keep it simple. Don't try to do more than you would normally do in the classroom. I would suggest trying to do a good bit less. I would prefer posting written or recorded lectures or lecture notes, perhaps posting PowerPoints, to trying to do any kind of live video feed or even elaborate recordings of lectures for class or live conversations. Keep it simple. I think you will benefit and your students will benefit from that. My third point then is also not to try to duplicate the classroom experience online. I think some of us may have a tendency to think that since we have 150 minutes of classroom time, contact time during the week, we should have at least 150 minutes of actual active student participation at the computer for the remote for the remote portion of the class that we're teaching. I think that's a mistake. I think that'll lead us to a bad place. I suggest the better thing to do is to decide on a scaled down set of objectives to pursue during these weeks for the course. So perhaps I can't teach everything I want to out of Aristotle's Ethics, but I think I can pick the 3 biggest points that I want to make sure that my students are able to master, and the 3 points that I think I can accurately and reliably measure using the tools that are going to be available to me through remote instruction and through my learning management software. My fourth point is I think you should teach your class asynchronously unless it is absolutely necessary to teach it synchronously. Synchronous classes, I think, place a heavy burden on students and on faculty and on the tech infrastructure, which frankly has not been tested at this scale yet. So most humanities classes, I think, are easily convertible to asynchronous teaching, at least for a couple of weeks. That's what I'm planning on doing with all of my classes. I think we may have a prejudice in favor of the synchronous instruction, thinking that it more easily duplicates the in-class experience. But if we follow my previous point, we're not trying to duplicate the in-class experience. We're just trying to provide a bridge between our previous instruction and a return to normalcy after this brief period of remote instruction. So I think asynchronous is the way to go. It's the way that meshes most easily with different student circumstances, student work schedules, or child care and elder care schedules. So that's my plan. My way of doing asynchronous instruction is to have due dates throughout the week. So I might have some work due Monday, some due Wednesday, and some due Friday, but I make those into soft deadlines. And I let my students know that you can turn Monday's work in later in the week without penalty, and I might set a date, a hard deadline, later at the end of the weekend, let's say Sunday midnight, where all the work for that week, if it's not turned in by Sunday midnight, will be scored 0 or will be accepted only with a very significant penalty after that. That lets students pace themselves through the week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but also give some of them, the needy ones, opportunities to push some of that work off to later in the week or into the weekend if they have a work schedule or a childcare schedule that's going to put some strain on their participation in the class. My fifth and final point, send reminders. Send your students reminders about due dates once you've set them periodically. You can use the announcement feature in Canvas or the email students who have not submitted yet feature. I would remind students 24 hours before an assignment is due, and then probably 2 or 3 hours before it's due, I'd go in and send an additional email reminder to students who've not submitted yet. This is a new territory for us. It's new territory for them. So most of our students are going to be not in the normal rhythm of having things due by 11 o'clock on Monday or by midnight on Thursday, as they've had in our semester prior to this. So those are my 5 quick tips drawn from some reading and conversation with colleagues and from my own experience about how to move a class from live instruction to remote instruction or online instruction just for this couple of week quarantine. I hope you found it helpful. Feel free to leave me your comments or questions in the comments below. Thanks for watching today. Goodbye.